This is a case study of a client of mine who isn't here, and she gave her permission for us to talk about her. And when we have a brand new client or even do a consultation, we have them fill out a very simple questionnaire of 3 simple questions. And the masterminders in the first 2 rows have all filled this out, and we fill this out because it changes quarterly when we meet at our mastermind meetings. Simply, where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there? Those simple 3 questions give a huge amount of information as far as where somebody's been in the past, the challenges that they're currently facing, how they intend to get out of them. So we ask for as much insight as possible. Dr. Jen typed this up and sent it to me. I'm going to read it to you. We're going to play coach and consultant together. I'm going to ask your opinion. When you hear a red flag, put your hand up. Okay? And we're going to try to get Dr. Jen through her challenges together. Some of it's going to be really obvious for you. Some of it might be a little bit subtle. But we have a war room at DSI, and when we get one of these, we sit down and we analyze all of the data that they've sent us, and we pull apart the paragraphs that they sent. And we try to fix and create a plan, a battle plan, to get them on the right path. So let's talk about Dr. Jen. Where are you now? She says, I feel that in order to get an accurate picture of where I am now, I'm going to have to share with you a little bit about where I've been. I'm a general dentist from Washington State, and I've been practicing dentistry for 10 years now. The first 4 years of my career were spent slogging it out in a corporate dental, quote-unquote, mill, where I learned the type of dentistry that I did not want to practice. I actually knew within the first few months that I wanted to leave the company and start my own practice, but then, as they say, life took over. I got married, then baby number 1 came, Aiden. 18 months later came Julia. Since my husband teaches at a local junior college and is wrapping up his PhD, I am the main breadwinner of the family. It just never seemed to be the right time to give up a steady paycheck and strike it out on my own. If we want to continue to live in this part of the state, 2 incomes will be necessary because property values are extremely high here. After shopping around for a year, I finally found the practice I was searching for. It was only a short drive from Aiden and Julia's school, who are 7 and 9, so I could pick them up or drop them off depending on my schedule. The practice had a 3-year collections average of $784,000, and I purchased it for $588,000 in 2008. You guys with me so far? Okay. The previous owner had built the practice for 25 years with the highest monthly collections of $800,000. He was a kind man, and his staff and patients loved him. He had to walk away due to health reasons, but he seemed like the kind of dentist that would have worked into his 70s just because he enjoyed the work and loved his patients. After the sale, I retained the entire staff of 5. 1 front office assistant, 1 office manager, 2 back office, and 1 hygienist. This was good news because they had all been with the practice for 15 years, knew everything about how to run the place, and quite honestly, I knew nothing about business or how to run a dental practice. This is where you put your hand up and say, red flag, red flag. The problem here is what she is saying. The good news is they know how to run the place, and I don't, right? So what's her plan? Her plan is to maintain the status quo, have this group of all-stars run the practice, and she's going to focus on clinical dentistry, right? A staff-dependent practice, which I talk about all the time, versus what? A systems-dependent practice. Big difference. She's counting on this staff to run the practice, and she's going to be content with her head in the sand, not knowing anything about how to run a dental practice. Bad idea, 2000. I brought a new spark of energy to the practice. After all, if I had learned nothing else from working at the mill, I learned how to produce. On paper, the practice was growing steadily every year, but even with consistent growth, cash was always tight. In fact, I can't remember the number of times I've had to use credit cards to pay a portion of payroll or catch up on overdue lab or supply bills. Red flag? Consistent growth, consistent production and collections increase. No money in the bank. What crosses your head, coaches and consultants? Potentially. Who is in Wendy's? Potentially embezzlement. What's that? Overhead, potentially. What's another biggie?
Tail dragging the dog.
I like that. Don't exactly know what that means in this circumstance, but are you saying that the staff is...
The staff is running her.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I gotcha. What I was looking for was a low collection to production ratio, okay? Or the tail wagging the dog, if you want to put it that way. In late 2000, early 2010, early 2011, I had finally had enough. I decided I was going to make one big push before I threw in the towel and put my practice up for sale. My plan was to expand the practice from 5 to 7 ops, hire a new associate dentist, and a full-time hygienist. To increase my new patient flow and fill their schedules, I'd increase the marketing budget. Red flag. What has she been doing to try to put more money in the bank account? Produce more. Production goals. Get that production up there. Has that worked so far? More production, more work, more collections, no money in the bank. I want to fix this, Dr. Jen says, by increasing my production, increasing my overhead by expanding, getting 2 new providers. What's the problem with that plan? It's the same plan. It didn't work before. So the old cliche is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's the old 12-step program, old cliche. But that's exactly what she's doing. I see so many dentists doing this. I am broke and I'm working my butt off. What I have to do is work more. Well, no, what you have to do is figure out what's broken in the machine, plug the holes in the bucket, and then you can work on increasing production. We executed the plan in early 2011, and for the next 3 years, production and collections continued to uptrend. But the problem remains. Even with significant production and collections increases, there's still barely enough money to cover our bills, and I'm actually taking home less than I was before the expansion. What are you guys hearing there? The more she collects, the more she produces, the bigger hole she's finding herself in. So there's some sort of an inverse relationship between the amount of money that's coming in and the amount of profit that's happening. So we have a lot of investigative work to do. Where do you want to go? Getting business coaching is my last attempt to accomplish these goals. If I don't start to see things turn around in the next 12 months, I'm putting the practice on the market. No pressure, Jake. 4 main goals. Take more money home and build up a business bank account large enough to cover all of our expenses, including payroll, every month. That is not a horribly terrible, out-of-reach goal, right? I mean, that's a cool goal. Have enough money in the bank to pay for payroll and overhead. That is a realistic goal. That's good. She's being realistic. It'd be nice to have maybe 2 or 3 months buffer in an account, but let's start with 1. I like that goal. Spend more time away from the practice and with my family. Number 3, understand the business better and figure out where all the money is going. That would be a novel thought. Number 4, enjoy life again. How are you going to get there? By creating a plan with your help and executing it. Let's summarize. Where are you now? Dr. Jen is a mother of 2, 8 and 9, Julia 7. She has owned her current practice for 6 years. January 2011, Jen set a goal to break the $1 million mark. 2011, she added an associate and a hygienist and expanded from 5 to 7 operatories. 2011, she instituted a staff incentive program based solely on production. Where are you now? Jen has raised her advertising budget each of the last 3 years in an effort to increase new patients and to keep her associate busy. She states that the practice feels chaotic and consistently runs 30 to 45 minutes behind schedule. No shows and cancellations are commonplace. Where do you want to go? Jen's primary goals: increase take-home pay, spend more time with the family and away from the practice, understand where the money's going, become less stressed, and begin enjoying life again. You guys have a clear picture of Dr. Jen? Okay, so before we even look at numbers, we analyze and see where she's at. Where's her head? What's her explanation of what's going on? Okay, now let's dig into numbers. How are you going to get there? By creating a plan and executing it. Okay, here's Jen's year-over-year comparison. 2011, 2012, and 2013. She gave us data all the way back to 2011. In 2011, net production, $948,000. Collections, $842,000. Anyone? What's the issue here? Low collection percentage. She's leaving $100,000 on the table. 2012. $986,000 produced, $901 collected. 2013, she did it. She broke her $1 million mark, 1.16 produced, 1.062 collected. What's happening? If you happen to have a low production year, low collections year, you'd expect to see it recoup at least a little bit in the next year. Right now, she's 3 years running, about $100,000 under collected. So she's got a big problem here as far as her systems. Something's broken in the billing department. Either they're not collecting up front, they're relying too much on statements, or they're not doing statements, or this is a PPO office, by the way, or they're not submitting insurance correctly or on time, or they're not following up. Something is wrong with the collections procedure. Something is wrong with the billing department. Okay, look at the inverse relationship here. Year-over-year profit. The year 2011, when she collected $842,000, she profited $62,000. When she went up to $986,000, $901 in collections, the profit actually dropped with more collections to $43,460. 2013, she collected $1 million. She profited $16,587. Completely inverse relationship, and this is why we picked this case study to highlight. Very, very stark difference in the direction that production is going versus the way that profit is going. Let's look at the breakdown again here in a different form. Net production, 940, collections, 842, total collection percentage, 90%, and look right here, guys. Overhead, 85%. Boom. Ouch. 2012, $986,000, 5% increase. That's good. 901, 547, 7% increase in collections. Collection percentage, 91%. Overhead, 84%. Not good. 2013, 1.16, 18% increase. Great year. 1.062, 18% increase in collections. Collection percentage, 92%. Overhead, 84%. You guys seeing the trend? Here's her scorecard, 2011. All right, so let's break this down a little bit. I know it's hard for you guys to read in your slides, but I'll try to talk you through it. If you look up in the upper right-hand corner, it says net production, 940, hygiene production, 165, 247. Hygiene production percentage, 18%. Big area of opportunity, right? She's about 12% short on her hygiene department. Her hygiene department is underproducing. It's not pulling their share of the weight, which could have something to do then with the overhead percentage because what she's paying the hygienists is not coming back in production, which means they're not bringing 70% back to the practice because they're not producing 30% of their goal. Okay? Revenue, collections, $842,147. Total expenses, excluding doctor, $712,402. Overhead percentage, 85%. Wow, that's pretty darn high, but I've seen worse. Doc.
I have a question. What do you consider other minor, other expenses?
I will categorize all that stuff in a sec. She asked the question, what do I consider other minor expenses? And if you guys have questions, just raise your hand and we'll get a mic over to you, okay? And I will categorize some of those things in a sec. But look here. Let's see if I can get this to work. Look here. When we're reading this comparison scorecard sheet, red is bad, as Jake said. This is the total payroll. If we're going by the 30-30-30-10 rule, 30-30-30-10 rule, yeah. She's way out of whack here. Okay, we got we got total payroll at $303,000, which is right here. 36%. The target is 30%, right? Like Jake said. 6.01% overage. If you have a $100,000 a month practice, that line item alone is $6,000 over. But here's what's even more shocking. Lab fees, $101,247, 12.2%. The industry norm is 9% on the high end, 3% overage. Dental supplies, $72,000, 8.57%, should be under 5, 3.57%. Between lab fees and dental supplies, Dr. Jen is 6.57% over. $6,500 a month over in 2 line items that are completely controllable. She had no idea because she doesn't know anything about reading these simple reports. I was talking to you guys a little bit earlier about some real simple stuff unrelated to staff. Staff is a little bit more complex of a situation, and I'm going to teach you guys how to decrease that staff overhead eventually. But right now, what's the lowest hanging fruit right here, guys? Non-staff related expenses are ridiculously high for no reason. I can talk about this right now because my Sullivan and Shine rep came to visit me and had lunch and then went away. Now I can talk about expenses. I can get real about the situation here. There is a huge margin for dental materials and dental supplies. A huge margin. And a Sullivan and Shine or a Patterson or a Benco rep can walk into a building with 16 dentists, and the 3 that he golfs with get a certain fee for saliva ejectors and impression material. And the 3 who have a gatekeeper that never allow them to talk to the doctor gets another grouping and pricing. And then the 3 over here that invited him to the Christmas party have a totally other set of fees. There is so much margin, they're playing you guys. They're playing you.